Today, I'm having a conversation with Letycia Pastrana, Executive Director of the Community Services Agency, CSA, of the Metropolitan-Washington Council, AFL-CIO.
Welcome to the Empowerment Zone with Ramona Houston, where we zone in on Black and Brown relations and our journey to empowering our communities.
The CSA is an independent nonprofit organization established to improve the lives of workers and their families by helping to meet their human and social services needs. We talk all about the ways the CSA is impacting and empowering workers and their families through support and educational services. Listen to my conversation with Letycia to learn how this organization, the CSA, has helped people to establish viable careers through their training programs. Enjoy our conversation and see show notes for more information about the CSA. As always, please subscribe to the Empowerment Zone podcast and give us a rating on Apple Podcast. Your support will ensure that we continue our journey in empowerment and impact. Thank you. Hello, here at the Empowerment Zone, we're all about empowerment and impact. And I'm so delighted that we are on season 4 already. And today we have Letycia Pastrana with us. She's all the way from the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And she's going to talk to us all about the Community Services Agency, which is a component of the AFL-CIO. Letycia and I have crossed paths many, many moons ago. I'm not going to say how many moons. She just reminded me in our pre-conversation, but she was in Atlanta at one point in time working with the Latin American Association, directing many of their programs there. And now her work is also about community impact and an engagement. And she's going to tell us all about her work at the Community Services Agency. But before she does, we just got to welcome her to the Empowerment Zone. Hey, Letycia.
Thank you, Ramona. How are you?
I am doing fine. I loved our conversation before we push record. I can't believe you're from San Antonio. I didn't know you were from there. That's where my family has roots. My daddy's side has roots in San Antonio, and actually my grandfather grew up in the Bernie, Fredericksburg area. And who would have known you had family in Bernie?
Yes, my mother and my brother. Yes.
Isn't
Small town.
Small town.
Small town. Yes, yes.
Yeah, we grew up going to family reunions in Bernie. And so it's good to hear that our spirits have crossed paths there too.
They have, absolutely.
Well, welcome to the Empowerment Zone. I'm so happy to have you and to hear about all this great work that you're doing in DC. So if you could, let's talk a little bit about Letycia before DC. Tell me a little bit about your background and your work and your personal and professional trajectory into servant leadership.
Thank you, Ramona, for having me in your podcast. Again, as Ramona was saying, that I have over 18 years working in the nonprofit industry. I worked in Atlanta for 12 years. I started with Latin American Association as I was contracted to launch 4 outreach centers in 4 different counties, because the thought was, the logic behind all that, Ramona, was that the Latin American Association is in Buckhead in Atlanta. So our families lived in Gwinnett County, Cobb County, and so forth. So once we did some research on that, I was contracted and went out and identified 4 areas where the need was most needed. And so I opened one in Cobb County and Gwinnett County and so forth. So I was with Latin American Association for about 6-7 years. before I was contracted to launch a nonprofit organization in Gwinnett County, serving again in Norcross, serving the community, which is primarily, at that time, there was a lot of families from Mexico, Guatemala, Latin America, if you will, and the town and Gwinnett County couldn't figure out why they don't speak English, why don't they understand the laws, that sort of thing. And when I came on, I had to negotiate, present to the mayor and the city council, and I kind of convinced them that this is the way to go. For us to have a house at $1 a year across the street from the mayor's office. And one of the responses that I received from the mayor is, she asked me, Ms. Pastrana, will you be playing Mexican music that we were able to hear? And I was saying, I thought it was a joke initially. And I said, no, we don't. No, what we do is provide services to our families. We had a legal component for those families that needed immigration information. We had a youth component for after school and summer programs. And so anyway, they approved it, and we had a nonprofit there right across the street in Norcross, Georgia. So shortly after, I had to move back to my hometown in San Antonio, Texas, because to care for my mother. And while I was there, I was approached to work at Ella Austin Community Services in San Antonio. It's an organization that's been around for a long time, and I was contracted to be the COO. This was an organization that used to be an orphanage for Black children years back, and now it's a pretty big, or was a big organization providing services not only to families. They had a senior center. They had like 4 departments, early Head Start, if you will. So that was great. Then I moved back to DC, and once I was here, I have friends here. My children's father and I used to live here in the 80s. He's an attorney, so he worked very closely with Marion Barry and also the DC Lottery. He was counsel for the DC Lottery. And so I said, well, I was here with my daughter. She went to Howard University. After graduation, she stayed. And so I came back and I said, Miriam, let me stay with you. And so I did. And I was approached if I wanted to be the executive director of this nonprofit. Now, Community Services Agency of the Metro-Washington Council is the nonprofit arm of the Metro-Washington Council, and is an affiliate of the AFL-CIO, the labor union. And it's a national labor union organization. We're located right next to the White House, if you will. And we serve DC, Maryland, and Virginia. There's over, as I understand, over 300 local unions in the 3 states, representing families in the Library of Congress. This is federal workers, all the hotels, and there's labor unions now in Starbucks. So there's huge labor unions, and right now we're protesting, if you will, strike because of the 3 automobile manufacturers. Huge group, huge family. They're in the process of negotiations, as I understand. So my role as the executive director of the Community Service Agency is when it's just that's helping serving families that are in need. We have 2 core programs, Ramona. One of the programs that we have is the Emergency Assistance Fund. This is a program that we offer families that they're on strike or they're laid off with no pension, no funds, no a salary, and they may be facing unique circumstances where They need rental assistance, they need food, utility assistance. So that's when they contact my office and we provide them with that support. We also have, and our second core program that we have is the Building Futures pre-apprenticeship construction program. And this program was developed 10 years ago, I believe. And this program is to provide the students an opportunity to view all the building trades, to experience all the building trades in the United States, the plumbers, the electricians. And so what we do, we expose them. We have quite a bit of apprenticeship programs here in Maryland and DC and Virginia. And what I've done, so once the program is over, which is 6 weeks, the students have the opportunity to get certified in OSHA 10, get certified in CPR. And once they finish, our role is to place them in the apprenticeship program. To place them in the apprenticeship program, they'll be there until they reach their journeyman, which is like 6 years. During that time, they are working as well as learning, but they're on salary. Their health insurance is paid for 100%. They have all the support they need from the unions. And then, of course, once they reach journeyman and so forth, their salaries they do well. Let's just put it, electricians do very well, plumbers do very well. But that is our goal, to make sure that they're exposed to all of so this is not just a job, this is really a career for our students. Our students are very diverse. We have ages from 18 to 50, 55. We have individuals that reentry. We welcome them. We work with CSA, where there's a lot of individuals that are on probation, if you will. They've been in prison, it's been my experience, 20, 30, 40 years in prison, and then they're released and they're like, this is not the same DC I left. So they're relearning, if you will, DC, the city of DC, and we have them in our program, and actually they do very, very well. They're in our 6-week program, and then we place them and they work hard. We have one person that's been in the apprenticeship program and journeyman for about 10 years, and that is success. The program is designed using research-based information. Everything I do is using best practices, and I think that this is why it's so successful. And in this program, we're in the community. My office is the only office downtown. Now this program is in the community. Howard University School of Psychiatry is in the basement. They have 2 or 3 social workers and also students, senior level student, master level students. And so when we have all the resources, the mayor gives us quite a bit of the tools and resources that we need to help the students, because most of the students, I would say the majority of the students, are from if you know, Southeast DC, Anacostia, low income families. And so we try to, prepare them not only to show them a trade, but also interview processes, what to wear. We don't accept anyone on drugs. We always tell them you can go downstairs to Howard University's clinic. However, we cannot take you right now until you have tested, because we test everyone that participates in the program. And then, of course, this Friday we have the mayor's office is very interested in women participating in the pre-apprenticeship program, becoming electricians and so forth. And so we received extra funding for that. And so we have 12 women, young women, very young women that will be graduating on Friday. One of the issues, Ramona, as you know, we're unique as women. Oftentimes we have children that, and I think this is something that not only the mayor, but everyone else needs to understand. We need childcare for us to participate in such program or work or go to school, that sort of thing. So that has become an issue, but this group that's graduating on Friday is a very young. I know I've got it.
I'm really excited to hear about this program. You know, we both know the value of unions, right?
Yes.
In making sure that workers have resources to make sure that they are paid well and compensated
Right.
fairly. And so to hear that this union created the community services agency and looking at the services you all provide, like you stated, emergency assistance to families, as well as educational and professional development opportunities for to expose young people to the various trades
Yes.
that they can pursue as professionals. When you look at that, why do you think it was the unions who created such a program as the community services agency?
Well, so as I mentioned, the Metro-Washington Council is the one that created the nonprofit arm, but there are affiliates, and this is Metro-Washington Council office is located nationwide. So there's a council office in New York. I'm working with them now. There's all the way across the United States. It is the council, and I think it's important because from my standpoint is if you want to increase your union membership, this is what you do. If you want to improve go into economic development, improve it in communities such as Southeast. When I say Southeast and DC, it's just like, oh, Letycia. Yes, when everyone's capable of learning, and that's economic development. I think it's a positive thing for the unions to think about. Okay, I'm gonna work with you, Letycia, because apprenticeship programs. Keep in mind, Ramona, they have to take a test before they go in, and so I participate in the delegates meeting and the council's meeting, and I just and it's good to pretend like, well, I wasn't pretending, but I was new and I didn't quite understand because I've been there 2.5 years. But the first year I was asking, why not the apprenticeship programs accept our students? Can I do an MOU, a memorandum of understanding that you will accept? And I know that was bold because I saw some of my board members looking at me. That was pretty bold, but it from my standpoint, we can resolve it really quickly. The Plumbers Local 5, accept 2 to 3 students at every graduation, every cohort that we have. You have 2 or 3 potential union members. I mean, so I presented this, the whole design, and so currently we have two apprenticeship programs that have signed on, the electricians and the plumbers. So which is great.
Well, and I also love the fact that that you also have a focus on women's experience and
yes.
experiences in the workplace is very different from men because one of our primary roles is raising children, and having access to childcare is very important.
That is correct. That is correct. And I will tell you, Ramona, that most recently I received a copy of the Forbes magazine, and I see a woman climbing a building. And I said, wow, that's bold. Turns out that's my niece in Austin, Texas. She works for the city of Austin. She's an electrician. She's like 29, 30 years old. There is careers and you get paid, six digits and above with all the benefits. And I'm thinking, yeah, we can do this. Us women can do this. And not only that, after you get your journeyman and your masters and so forth, you can also have a business as well. So there's a lot of opportunities for both men and women in this industry.
So when you look at impact, you're,
Mhm.
as a servant leader, this community services agency is just a means for you to make impact in the community. In your opinion, what type of impact are you making? Like, what is the difference that community services agency is making that no one else is making in the community?
That's a good question. I think that the impact we're having, and keep in mind, Ramona, everything we do, we measure and input the data because we receive a lot of federal grants from different foundations and organizations, and including a government grant from the mayor's office. I think that everything we do, Ramona, is measured and is entered, and this data collection where we can see improvement. 20 people go in, 15 graduate, and 15 get placed in jobs. We follow them for one whole year because success is not just because oftentimes we have to change or modify, if you will, behaviors. You just don't get a job that's paying you $40, $50 an hour and then you walk out, or you get angry. So during these 6 weeks, we have Howard University come upstairs and talk to our students, about our behaviors, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And so we provide all these resources for them to be prepared, for them to be placed in the apprenticeship program. So our success rate is right now is at 78%.
That's great.
And keep 78% that are successfully placed with an apprenticeship program or an employer. What we struggle with, our challenges, is that marijuana, it's legal, Ramona. It's illegal. I remember last year I saw this young girl, 18, 19 years old, in front of Georgetown University. They had people sign up for COVID shots, and they'll give you a cylinder with a marijuana joint on there.
Hmm.
And that just kind of blew my mind away. I go, oh, I'm trying to work so hard to get our young adults off of marijuana. I think that's the number one reason, because you cannot climb a building when you're high. You cannot work with, electricity when you're high. And I think that this is why it's a 78%, because we dismiss you. Our program manager, she's very strict, and the system she uses to accept students is a good one. We have, before I hired her 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, you would have students coming in. Of course, they were high, and because we give them a stipend, some students come in and just get their stipend and they just leave. So I think that moving forward in the last year and a half, we've been, the selection process is more rigid, if you will, more, we do drug test you. We do a basic middle school level math, that sort of thing, to make sure that we get the best students we can.
Mhm, mhm.
But that has been a challenge.
Yeah, dealing with that issue of, drugs may be a challenge, in terms of admission to
Yes.
the program, but those that you get in the program, I'm sure you're making your impact. And, that's one of the things that we focus on in my agency, Colorado Strategies, is making impact in communities. And
That's
here
right.
you have
That's right.
the Community Services Agency that is making impact with families as well as with individuals. So when you look at that, when it's all said and done, what do you want the legacy of the community services agency to have in the community and the impact that you want to make in the community? What difference do you want to say, hey, after it's all said and done, we did this, we accomplished this is our legacy in the community?
That is a very good question, Ramona. We've been in the community, I believe, for 9 years, and uh, it's been all positive. I think now it's every year it's good to adjust, modify the program, what worked, what didn't, and analyze what partners we're going to align ourselves with. Right now, we have Howard University, and we have quite a bit of partners, CSOs, as I mentioned before, probation officers, that provide us with the resources. The impact that we're having is the reentry individuals that have been released and they're under probation. They come into the class with the monitors and their ankles, no judgment. And the good thing is that they're placed and they stay working. They made a change in their families. Someone is taking, I'm not going to mention names here, but there's a son who's taking care of his mother who's elderly. That's positive impact. We have currently on Friday, as I mentioned before, we have an all women's Building Futures pre-apprenticeship program, and she's there. So she's studying to be placed. She's about 55. She has 2 daughters that are there and a son. Her other son went through our program last year, and he's doing amazing work, right? So she says, okay, I brought my 2 daughters. This son, he's not really mine biologically, but I'm taking care of him because he's from the community, and that's how we do it. And so the hope, her hope is to make positive change, positive impact. And when she told me this story, I'm going to recognize her at one of our events, because I think that she goes, I don't have an education, Letycia, but I know what's good. Building Futures is good. So just to hear that we're doing something right, Ramona. And when we go to the probation office, or we go to Ballou High School, everyone recognizes us. Oh yeah, I heard so-and-so is working, is doing really well. So we are making an impact in the community. But again, we align ourselves with other nonprofits in the area. We're inside the DC Dream Center, which if you look it up on the website, it's a huge building. It's like five floors. That's where our program site is. Ernest Clover is the CEO. He's amazing, and he's amazing. And so we all work together. Howard's downstairs, Dr. Gloria Kane. We all kind of, come to meet with each other. Oh, Letycia, have you heard of this new technique and that sort of thing? So we're always looking at new ways to help in our community, because Ramona, it's not an easy job. It's not an easy job. So, but it definitely feels good. It feels good.
So if anybody wants to be involved in your programming, or if any families need support in terms of emergency assistance, how would they get in touch with you?
They will call me directly. Yes, so I'm in charge of the funds, if you will. So they will call me directly, and I have an assistant, or they will call the assistant directly, and they would contact me, and I will write the checks.
So we have Letycia Pastrana here today. And as you know, Letycia, we're big advocates for college and higher education. So I want to get that strategy from you that you think students should take from you in order to be successful in college. So tell me, what college did you attend? What were your majors or degrees? And what is that strategy you would give students to ensure that they're successful in college?
To school in California. The college was called California State University, Hayward. And my bachelor's degree my bachelor's degree is in health services administration. I was focused on working in a hospital and in a leadership role. I've never worked in a hospital to date. I've always worked in a nonprofit. I like to see results and feel good that change is coming, Ramona. And so I've been working in a nonprofit for a long time. And I think one of the most important, because I mentor adolescent girls, young adults, if you will. Also in Atlanta, I mentored 4 girls, young girls that came to me that it was during the time that immigration was kind of crazy, and they could only go to high school in the state of Georgia. So they came to me at the where I was working at Latin American Association. She goes, Letycia, I have a 3.8, I have a 4.2. Why can't I go to Georgia State? What? So I'm not going to mention any names. So that this is Letycia working. I called the president of Georgia State, and I called the Fanning Institute in University of Georgia, who used to sit on our board, and I worked something out. Those 4 girls, the 3 girls are immigration attorneys. And then there's one that lives over here. She's married and she lives in Maryland. And they're doing very well. And so I have this thing. Right now I currently mentor 2 young women. And the tools that is required to make good decisions, I feel, is find someone, surround yourself with people that can provide you the tools for success. College, what's my first step in college? What do I need to do? Guide me. Where do you think I want to do? I want to major in humanities. What does that mean? Financial literacy and so forth. In Georgia, it was very interesting because, my mother's Mexican from Mexico, and it was very interesting to me when I was working at Latin American Association, to find young women at 15, 16 years old wanting to get married, and it was okay. And so I had to talk to the parents, and I said, I'm going to rent a van, and we're going to go to University of Georgia, and I'm going to set it up so they can talk to professors that look like them. And we, on the way up there, I'm driving the van, by the way. And so I had like 7, 8 girls in the van, and the conversations were about boyfriends and all that. Once they got there, they didn't realize what a dormitory. They got a visit. So exposure, Ramona, is everything. It is everything. If you've never seen it, how do you expect them to go anywhere? On the way back, I'm driving, and the conversation is totally different. I mean, I'm going to ask my dad. No, I'm going to ask him that I want to go to University of Georgia. I want to go to Georgia State because that's closer to home. The conversation changed. So exposure, it's huge. And so what we do at Building Futures, we give them we take them on a field trip to the Plumbers Local 5, so they can see. It's almost like a college, and they can see all the different compartments on how to do plumbing. You go to the electricians, which is a huge building, and the same thing. So they get to see this is what it could be if you choose electrician. So exposure. And so, go ahead.
Yes, these are 2 great pieces of advice for college students. Surround yourself with advocates, supporters, and champions who will propel your success. You want to be around affirming people. And secondly, get into those programs that will provide you, that will expose you. Exposure is so important. How can you even aspire to do something that you never heard of or ever seen? So exposure is so important. Thank you so much, Letycia, for the great advice. It is so valuable.
A special thank you to the incredible team of the Empowerment Zone. Terry Gully, theme song. NADWorks, digital support, and of course, our featured guest.